We have big news. We have exciting news for you. Tell them what it is, Serena.
We are super excited to announce that we are starting our first membership this January 2024.
Yay! Membership.
So we're excited to let you know that we will be hosting a monthly membership where when you join, you will be
with us live in a Zoom room once a month for a workshop like we just hosted. It's going to be a workshop like that, one topic each month, a different topic. You might even help us come up with the following month's topic from inside our membership. Super excited to meet you. It was so fun meeting a few of you in our inaugural workshop. So we're really looking forward to that.
And when you are a member, you will also be receiving a monthly newsletter where I'm going to be a little more intimate and I'll be sharing the things that are working and the things that aren't working for me.
Yeah, like taking a tool that you've learned from the podcast and how you're implementing it and how well that worked, or maybe if it didn't work. And then Amma can put in my 2 bits worth. We'll see how that goes. But a membership newsletter and a membership live Zoom room workshop starting in January 2024. You can sign up through our Patreon link in the show notes, yeah?
Yes, everything will be in the show notes, and we can't wait to see you there, listeners.
We can't wait. Yay!
Hello, and welcome back to another episode here at the Nurturing Parent Podcast. And today we're talking all about boundaries. And I've been hearing boundaries a lot lately, but I don't really know what they look like. And in the title, we say sticking to your no's because when we usually say no, but Amma will put a little knowledge as to why we shouldn't say no's, but really just figure out what our boundaries look like. So in this episode, you will get why we should have consistent boundaries, what can happen when we do not stick to our no, and how to stay strong in your no to create boundaries that support our children's best interests and development. And I think it's an amazing conversation to have. It's an amazing conversation for you to tune into because this is really where our kids test us. They're constantly testing our boundaries. So I'm excited for you to be here with us, and let's dive into it.
Hey, Mama, welcome to the Nurturing Parent Podcast. Do you want to end the constant battles for bath time? Do you find yourself emotionally exhausted at the end of the day? Do you wake up with big hopes for a smooth day of fun with your little ones, only to face an early morning meltdown because you peeled their banana the wrong way?
Silly you.
Silly you.
Hey, I'm Serena. I am a mama of 2 little ones, and as a new mama, I constantly questioned myself. I wanted to make sure I was raising respectful kids while also building a strong bond with them. But I discovered that I had to unlearn my ideas that punishment was the way. With Lisa's encouragement, I've been practicing a respectful and gentle parenting approach, which is strengthening our bond as a family.
And hi, I'm Lisa. Amma means grandmother in Icelandic. I am a mama and an Amma. And I have over 40 years of experience in childcare and parent coaching. And I am so excited to share the knowledge I've gained over these years with you.
Together in this podcast, each week we will explore some easy to implement skills you can add to your parenting tool belt to help you create a happy, thriving family. All right. This is a good one for all you mamas, me too as a mama, but everyone. In every relationship, it's boundaries, setting them, sticking to them, and being consistent.
What you were saying to me, Serena, before we started was that you see a lot of people around you giving in to a child's incessant, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want that, I want the candy, I want now, I want it now. Can I buy this? All the stuff that we get bombarded with that tries to wear us down in our no when we've stated a boundary. And why that's happening is what we're going to look at. Children will test our boundaries. It's how they're wired. They're not trying to get us. They're not trying to annoy us. They're not being quote unquote bad or naughty. They're just wired to test where are the edges of this? Where are the parameters? Where can I live that's safe and comfortable? So we're going to look at what are boundaries? Why are they important? What happens if we aren't consistent with our boundaries, and how to hopefully be able to be consistent. Some of the sort of hacks into sticking to your no.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. Just as a blanket statement, I just want to say that number one, choose your battles.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is you don't need to have a million rules. You don't, believe it or not, you, parent, do not need to be the controlling force in your child's life. In fact, that's going to backfire on you. And if you're struggling, that's somewhere to look. Okay. So choosing your battles means, how important is this to you? And every household, every family is going to have a different level of comfort about what they believe, what they want, how they want to raise their children, those kinds of things. So having a few necessary boundaries or limits or house rules or whatever you want to call them, having a few necessary ones creates safety and security for our children. When children know the parameters, they can run and play more freely within them. So when you know what the rules are, let's look at our adult relationships again. If you and your husband are really clear that either of you flirting really a lot with somebody else outside your marriage isn't okay, then you're going to be able to be playful within your partnership with your husband way more easily, right? Than if you're always worried about, oh, did he look at somebody, like all that nervousness that we don't feel safe. We don't feel secure if we are uncertain. So strong boundaries bring certainty. And with certainty, we can have more fun and we can grow more.
Flourish.
Flourish. Thank you. They can flourish. Exactly. Children will test our boundaries. So there we are. We have a few necessary things in place. Can you think of some basic boundaries that you have in your family just as examples, Serena? So, for example, things like sitting at the dinner table together, going to bed at bedtime.
Yeah, that's what I was
Sitting
gonna
down
say.
in the bath and not standing up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, sitting at the table while everyone's eating. We all stay until we're done eating.
Mm-hmm.
When it's bedtime, it's bedtime.
Mm-hmm.
No, one more movie, one more. When it's time for us to go to bed, it's time for bed.
Right. Okay,
sure.
great. So those are some really basics. And we might not even, that's why I wanted to bring that up and ask you, is we might not even think of them as boundaries or limits or rules, but that's really what they are. They're giving a parameter of how things work in our family. When it's dinner time, we sit down together. When it's bedtime, it's bedtime. Mm-hmm. When it's bath time, you sit down in the bath.
When we wake up, we go downstairs and I make breakfast, and then we sit down and have breakfast together.
Yeah, perfectly. Perfect. Okay, good examples. So the number one rule in childhood is that children will test our boundaries. It's not the number one rule, but it is very consistent with childhood. They will test our boundaries. They're not trying to be quote unquote bad. They're not trying to bug us, all those things. They're just being children and they're testing where are these edges? How far can I go? Where am I safe to go? All of those.
Yes, that makes me think of another one that Andrea likes to test, and that is markers are for the paper, paint is for the canvas.
Or
So
the paper. Yeah.
yeah, and she tests those and goes on the walls.
And I want to say, because I know from way back early in our podcasting history together, Serena, you shared with me that one of her grandparents let her write on the walls.
Yes.
So that's an inconsistent boundary. That's a great example, because one of the things we're going to look at is clear and consistent boundaries create for a child a sense of certainty, right? Both parents need to be consistent together as well.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a grandparent who lets them draw on the walls. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it when you told me that, but that's what that was like. So no wonder your little one is still not quite clear where that boundary is. If there's a grandparent or an auntie or somebody who wants to give them sweets any time of the day they want, then you're going to have some problems with that. If they go and stay with a grandparent or an auntie, or if maybe dad lets them stay up later because he doesn't want them to cry and they just wanted to watch one more movie, then you're going to have some problems around that area. So, what we find is that if we see children who are constantly testing the boundaries, let's look to see where those boundaries are not being consistently held. Okay. A few episodes ago, I think it was, Serena, you mentioned that some kids are just brats. And I said, well, bratty behavior, not the child, but the deed. So, yes, there is some bratty behavior. And what I'd like to say and remind you all is that babies are not born, quote unquote, bad or naughty. We create that. We need to take ownership for that. Often a lack of consistent boundaries or from too many rules in the household, in the family, can cause a child to push back constantly, right?
Yeah.
So let's look when we see a child who's acting out. If it's not your child, you can have some compassion and see that that child probably isn't having consistent, appropriate boundaries. When it's your own child who's acting out a lot, testing the boundaries, then you get to look at you and go, where is this boundary not consistent enough? Or do I have too many rules and limits? So the child is pushing against the side of a steel cage they feel they're in. Or is this boundary not age and stage appropriate? Okay. So with the bedtime, either if there's a lot of problem around bedtime, and we have a whole episode about bedtime, you guys, Serena can pop that into our show notes to remind you where that is. But if there's constant pushing around bedtime, you can look at how consistent is your bedtime routine. Go back and listen to that episode. But also, is your bedtime at an appropriate time? And if it's too late, the child's getting overtired and then getting wired. And that's when a lot of testing of boundaries will come up. And if it's too early, the child's not going to be tired enough. Or maybe you haven't gotten outside or done enough activity today. Okay, so that's all there as far as looking at what might be happening where this acting out and this testing is coming from. So let's look at what a lack of consistency teaches. I get what I want because I push and push and push. I have crying behavior or screaming and yelling behavior or pouting behavior or whatever it is the child is doing, and it results in getting what I want. So guess what is consistent? What becomes consistent for that child is that when I do this behavior, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what we're aiming for, right?
Yes, and that's where I see that those bratty behaviors come out, and then that's when I would typically label that kid as a brat. But I've learned that that it's the bratty behavior, and usually it does come from the parents' lack of consistency with their boundaries. So that comes from me when I see kids, like if they want a candy, give me that candy. And the way they speak too can be disrespectful because they don't set those boundaries up. That's not how we speak. You do not speak to your parents like that. You really don't speak to anybody like that. But
we don't speak to one another like that. I prefer, right? We don't talk rude or yell at each other in our family.
Yes, but that's where I've had to change that mind frame around. That's not the kid's fault. It's not the kid being a bad kid. And that's how I really learned there is no such thing as bad kids. That reframing.
And I just want to acknowledge you for your willingness to learn, because and all of you listeners listening in and perhaps learning new things or being reminded of things and trying new things in your families. It's really a beautiful thing to watch a family grow, to watch a mama grow into being more of a nurturing parent. I love it so much.
Thank you.
So when we are consistent, it creates certainty. It creates for the child an internal knowledge that develops that our parent can be trusted. And by extension, the world can be trusted. So if we give them a foundation of trust, they will know what trustworthy is. It gives us a sense that our parents are reliable, that they do what they say and they say what they do, right? That gives us safety and security, like I said earlier. And if we don't have those things, living in constant uncertainty actually really can cause anxiety on a huge level. And if we don't see it in early childhood, we're going to see it as the child grows up through the teen years and into young adulthood and throughout our whole lives.
Yeah, I feel like there's such a rise in anxiety. I feel like everybody I know has some sort of anxiety, and maybe that's from the parenting style that was so popular when we were being raised.
Yes. I think you're onto something there for sure. So, and that's a good point, because how you were raised, if you were raised with a very strong authoritarian, you do what I say because I say so, you might have a hard time, not if you're choosing not to raise your children that way. First of all, thank you. And second of all, you might have a hard time knowing how to have consistent boundaries, because it's going to be reminiscent of that power over you kind of boundaries that your parents had. Okay, so we're going to get to this. We're going to get to how can we do this as nurturing parents. What we'll notice if our child is testing our boundaries, we'll notice perhaps whining behaviors, perhaps just niggling at you. I want some, but can I please just one? I just want one. Please, pretty, please, with sugar on top. And they wear us down, right? If it goes even further and you keep saying, no, I'm not giving you candy at bedtime. No, we can't watch another movie tonight. It's too late. If you keep saying your no and it's new for your child, then what you might end up with is an emotional meltdown, a tantrum, a big upset, which is why we give in, because we don't want to go there. We don't want to go into the big, especially if we're out in public. Let's think about being in the grocery store and back to we have one about sweets and healthy eating. You're in the grocery store lineup, you're getting through the till, and there's all the candy, and your child is begging you for some candy, and you don't want to have a scene in the store, so you often give in. Okay, what happens? When our child goes into a meltdown, what do? Let's start looking at what we can do to enforce these boundaries in more nurturing ways. First of all, we need to remember, did you hear that? Take a deep breath. Put your hand on your heart, your hand on your belly. Breathe that deep breath in to ground yourself. You want to be the anchor in your child's storm. And you want to remember that brain development in a young child is still limited. They don't know why a boundary is in place, maybe. They might not remember. They might not have ever been told. And in this moment, they might not care. They just know that they want something. And they're going to be reactive and all of those things as we keep talking about the brain development of the child. So you need to remember, it's our job to remember that their brain development is causing this meltdown, this emotional upset. They're not trying to get you. They're not trying to, all the things. Unless we let it go for years and years, and then they start doing it on purpose to manipulate you. But in the early years, the infancy, the toddler, the preschooler years, they're not intentionally trying to manipulate you. Okay. And we need to be strong with our no. So, one of the first things we can do is practice our active listening. Active listening looks like getting to eye level with our kids, acknowledging their feelings. Let's use a specific example. Which one do you want to use, Serena?
I want chips. Dinner's about to be served, and can I just have a few chips?
Okay, thanks. So you want to get to your eye level with your child, and say, I get that you want chips right now, and we're having dinner in 15 minutes. So it's not a good time for chips. But I want some. I hear that you want them, and I hear that you want them really bad right now. I wonder if you're hungry. I've got some carrot sticks or whatever else nutritious snack you can give them to ward off the hunger. If it's hunger, feed them a little bit. Don't let them get over hungry. Okay. That's our job too, is to try and beat them to the punch, try and see what's coming and be there with the remedy before you need it. So give them that healthy nutritional snack. Acknowledging, I get that you're really upset. I get that you're mad at me. It's okay for you to be mad at me about not having chips before dinner. If you're really hungry, there's some carrot sticks and celery sticks. And you can get them yourself, or I can get them for you and pop them on a little plate real quick. Right? So there, and saying that it's okay to be mad at me is really empowering. It's not okay to speak really rudely to me. It's not okay to call me names. And it's okay to feel mad. So there are parameters and boundaries around how we feel our feelings is feeling our feelings. Acting out on our feelings, that's different, right? Calling names, that's not feeling a feeling, that's acting out on it. Okay. So I also want you to consider the whole idea of reconnecting before we correct behavior. So active listening does that. Acknowledging feelings, giving feelings a name does that. I hear how frustrated you are about wanting another movie, and right now it's bedtime. And it's okay to feel frustrated. And we'll have some more movie time tomorrow or next week or whenever that is for your family. I also want you to know that for some kids, getting down in their face and active listening, like eye contact, touch, that just could send them even further off. So you need to know your child. You need to get used to who your child is and what they react best to, what they respond best to. So for some, a gentle touch is good for reconnection. For others, it's too much, especially if they're in an upset. For some, taking some deep breaths, putting my hand on my heart and breathing, modeling for them, that is a good way to reconnect. For some, giving them a bit of space if they're really upset is good. And if you're in the supermarket, just pick them up and carry them out. If they're young, if they're that little, hopefully they're that little still, if they're having a really big meltdown in the supermarket, and just reassure them as you're carrying them out, wailing and screaming, it's okay. I'm going to give you your space once we get to your car seat. So active listening, reconnecting, but doing those in a way that works for you and your child. All right. Another really powerful way to reaffirm your boundaries is to say, I love you and I cannot let you ... You fill in the blank. I love you. And it's important to me that you have nutritious food that feeds your body and your brain and all those growing muscles and all the parts of you. And I love you so much. I can't let you eat chips right now. So affirming your love, and that's where the boundary is coming from. I love you, and I won't let you stay up another half hour to watch another show because mama knows that your body is growing so fast and your brain is growing so much. You need your sleep. I love you, and I can't let you stay up later. Okay. That's a really beautiful one. I love it. If the situation does need your correction, you've already done your reconnection, you've been listening, you've been acknowledging feelings, you've affirmed your love and your boundary at the same time. Just make sure that as you are correcting the situation, that you avoid using that word no. We did use it in the title, stick to your nose, because sometimes it's no, I'm not going to give you more candy. And so just reaffirming things I've said before is avoiding the word no a lot because it sets you up for a battle. So I hear how much you want the chips before dinner, and the chips are not going to be consumed before dinner. It's giving information. It's being factual. It's sticking to that limit and that boundary that is for your well-being.
And I think once you mentioned we want to save those no's for emergencies.
Exactly. Thank you. No, don't run out on the street. No, hold my hand. We're in a parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because when we use the no too often, as soon as they hear it, that's all they hear and they have their reaction to it. Thank you for that reminder. Using redirection language, like sometimes it helps, can be a very helpful phrase. So sometimes it helps to eat a little snack before we go to the grocery store. So we're not in there hungry, right, mamas? You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes it helps to eat those carrot sticks before supper, because we get that crunchy thing that we want from chips, and your child might, well, if they've been used to getting chips whenever they want chips, they might not want your carrot sticks. Thanks for coming. But it's going to take a little time to reaffirm your boundaries and to reaffirm your consistency. It will take time. You may get some hit back. It may seem to get worse before it gets better. And that's when I want you to write to us and let us know how it's going, and let me talk with you one-on-one, even in our DM chats. We've been doing that with a few parents, and it's been wonderful for us and for the parents who are receiving that one-on-one. Another great one is to offer some choices so the child feels like they have some control. Sometimes, boundaries can have our children feel like they're being controlled. And again, choose your battles. What is important? What can you ease up on? Boundaries don't want to be a steel box. They really don't. They want to be a parameter. They want to be, a somewhat movable fence. You don't want to move it all the time. But occasionally, if the grandparents are visiting from out of town, yeah, bedtime can be a little later tonight. If it's hot summer day and you're out and there's an ice cream shop you walk by, maybe you have a sweet snack, an hour before dinner or whatever. You know what I mean? So just allowing a little bit of flow. It's not rigid. It's firm consistency, but not rigid. Do you get the difference? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So offering choices can help children feel a little bit more empowered in their lives. So we need to eat breakfast now. Would you like peanut butter toast or a bowl of cereal? You can offer them a couple of choices that are okay for you. Back to the dinner one. There's going to be no chips before dinner. Would you like to have carrot sticks or celery sticks, or do you prefer to wait for supper? And you might, I'm not telling you these are going to be like miracle cures, you guys. You might get, no, I want chips. I hear that you want chips, and there's going to be no chips before supper. You can have carrots or celery, or we'll be eating in 15 minutes. But I really want chips. Yep, I hear you. I'll be right over here getting the rest of dinner ready. If you want to set the table, that would help get dinner on the table faster. And I'll be thinking about how much you want those chips while I'm over here making dinner. So that's what I have for you. I hope some of those suggestions are going to be helpful. I hope some of the knowledge about, for me, it always comes down to what's the underlying reason? Why are we doing this? We are being consistent because it helps our children feel safe, feel secure. It builds trust in our word. They can believe us when we say something. They can feel safe in knowing that their parent is reliable, right? So many good reasons.
And it makes our parenting journey a little easier once we get past that hump of the difficulty and the fight back.
Yes.
But it does make it easier. It makes
Yes.
your days go smoother, and it's all to help us connect and be happier and enjoy each other.
Yes. And being consistent in your nose, in your boundaries, in your keeping to those boundaries that you do have is a vital part of being a nurturing parent. Because of what Serena just said, because of what you said, it's like it will make our job easier and actually more joyful. They know where their parameters are. They're going to test less and less often when they feel safe and secure and they can trust your word. So yeah, Let us know how it goes. We love you.
All right, so I have about 5 or so gems from today's episode. And number 1 is having clear and consistent boundaries will allow our kids to play freely and flourish because they have a strong sense of safety and security. So if they know their boundaries, they have more room to play freely. It boosts their self-esteem, it decreases their anxiety, all the benefits. And number 2 is if you notice there is constant pushback, you should look at where you aren't being consistent with your boundaries. If it is age and stage appropriate, or if something needs to be adjusted. For example, maybe bedtime needs to be earlier. If you notice when you do approach bedtime and they're overtired and they're fighting it, maybe it needs to be moved up. Or if they're constantly asking for snacks before dinner, maybe dinner time needs to be moved up. Number 3 is be strong with your boundaries. And I had to be strong with your no, but as we mentioned, trying to avoid no will help because no sets you up for a battle. So be strong with your boundaries and be ready to face the tantrum because we know that's going to happen eventually. So when you do face a tantrum, take a deep breath. Put your hand over your heart, one hand over your heart, one hand over your belly. And take a deep breath and remember, their brain development is what causes the upset. If they're infants or toddlers, it's just their brain development that is causing the upset. And you just have to let them feel the feelings. Which brings us to number 4, letting them know it's okay for you to be mad. Let them be upset. Let them feel the feelings. It's okay. Our kids don't have to be happy 24/7. We're not happy 24/7. It's okay to feel our feelings. It's not okay to act on our feelings, to throw things, to hit, but it's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry. And then you can say, I love you, and I cannot let you throw those toys. You can hurt your sister. I love you, and I'm not going to let you have chips because you need to have a healthy meal so you can be strong and your brain can grow. And then number 5, as I mentioned before, is avoid the no. Give information. So instead of saying, no chips, you can say, we're about to have dinner. And then the other tool is using options. I can allow you to have some broccoli before we have dinner because that's ready. Or I can allow you to eat a little rice because that's ready, or celery sticks or carrot sticks. I wish my kids would eat carrot sticks. But giving options and giving information, not just hitting them with a no, because that sets us up for a battle. And I hope this was beneficial to you. I think this is a great episode to help us remember how important it is to stick to our boundaries, because sometimes we're so exhausted and it's so easy to give in because we don't want to hear the tantrum, we don't want to deal with it, we don't want to face that pushback, so we just give in. But then it really just makes us suffer in the long run because when we're not consistent, we get more pushback. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, Mama.
Thank you for being here with us.
That.
Okay, how cute was that? Thanks for being here with us. Hit subscribe to get notified.
And hey, did you get anything out of this episode? I know I did. Show some love and send it to your mama friends to bless their day too.
And before you run and change that diaper, take 5 seconds and leave us a review saying how much you love us. You'll be helping other mamas find us. Did you know that? And hopefully find answers to the questions that are keeping them awake at night.
And if you screenshot your review and DM it to us, you will be entered to win a 1-hour coaching call at a discounted price with Amelisa.
I can't wait to chat with you. Come hang out with us in our Facebook group or on Instagram. Just click the links in the show notes. And you can direct message us anytime. We would love to chat with you.
We also have a buy me a coffee option for a fun way that you can support this podcast for just as much as you care to give. Just click the show support link in our show notes. Thank you.
This show.
See you next week.
You don't